changing the powers of officers or anything like that. But with that amendment having gone down the drain, we're left with a budget that, number one, contains, as we noted, 4.9% expense increase. That does not represent to me any significant effort to restrain costs. We're left with a budget which is balanced on $32 million one-shot revenues, which is extraordinarily dangerous. I mean, we're selling everything under the sun around here. And all we're doing is moving revenue sources from the future into the present. And remember that when we generate that $10 million from the sale of the pilots, we're selling $12.5 million of pilot revenue. The estimate we were given was that it would be $2.5 million a year for 5 years. We're taking a 20% loss on the sale of those pilots. And when we sold the delinquent taxes last year, we sold $25 million of delinquent taxes for $22 million. While it was nice to get the $22 million, we took a loss of $3 million. That's a 12% haircut that we took on the sale of those delinquent property taxes. Plus, we lost all the penalties and interest that we earn in future years. You know, and this is a classic. Monroe County traditionally was earning about $6 million a year in penalties and interest on delinquent taxes. We sold all the delinquent taxes last December. And what did the 2008 budget contain for penalties and interest on delinquent taxes? Zero, zippo, nothing. Yes, we balanced 2007 with $22 million of delinquent taxes. We moved into 2008 with missing $6 million of penalties and interest on taxes. And isn't it ironic now that we're talking about 2008 ending with a deficit of up to $7.2 million. If we had that $6 million from the penalties and interest on taxes, we wouldn't be facing that deficit in this fiscal year. But the budget, as it stands, offers no hope that we are doing anything except digging a deeper hole. And therefore, Mr. President, I cannot vote for the budget. Thank you very much.
Further discussion on the budget? Mr. McCann.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to explain my vote. As I was thinking about my comments for this evening, my mind went back to really about 20 years ago. The first job I ever had in government. I was an intern for a man named Roger Robach. He was a senator. Some of the older people in the room might remember Assemblyman Robach. He always had one saying that really has stuck with me for 20 years. He always, since I came in contact with him, he always had a saying that it was important that you have a sense of history in whatever it is that you do. If you're going to understand the situation that you're in today, it's important that you have that sense of history so that you know how you got there. And if you listen to a lot of the discussion that we've had tonight, it's almost as if there's a longing for the good old days, criticisms of one-shots and things that we're doing in this budget. I feel that given the circumstances that we're in, the county's in, I think this is a very good budget. I think the county executive and her staff have done a very good job, given the parameters that they have to operate in. But also, when I look back on my personal experience, it's important for me to point out, also going back about 20 years ago, that's really my knowledge of county government really only goes back about that far. But the problems that we have today structural deficits, in terms of the problems that we have, really parallel or very similar to 20 years ago under the administration of County Executive Tom Fry, who I was a communication aide for the county at that point. I want to take a moment and sort of speak about the situation that the county was in at that point. Doing a little research, preparing for the meeting, really during the 4 years of that administration, the tax levy went up over that 4-year period by $51 million. And if you take a look at that cumulative effect of that increase, you have probably about $120 million that was raised from the taxpayers of this community to deal with budget deficits and not budget deficits, but rather the unfunded mandates that we still face today, 20 years later. And when that levy went up, it was about 30% that went up over 4 years. And if you take a look at what happened at the end of that 4-year period, the county was left with a $42 million deficit. And if you take a look at that deficit and those tax increases, I think the reality was taxes couldn't be raised enough to keep pace with the expenses at that time. And really, you would have had to have had probably 13 or 14% tax levy increases in order to sustain county operations. You know, there's been a lot of talk about one-shots. There's been a lot of talk about the situational rent. But when you look at the old days and you look at the tax increases and what they did in this community, they were really devastating. And if we're going to move forward together as a legislature, we aren't going to be in a position where we're going to be able to cut our way out of this problem. The county was very diligent for a number of years, particularly under County Executive Brooks. We don't have the ability to cut our way out of this. We need to work together. The county executive has been very out front, very outspoken, and articulate in the need to get mandate reform and to get relief from Albany. And really, as we move forward, that's where our efforts need to be. And hopefully we'll be able to do this as a unified body, and we'll be able to work together to try to get reform from Albany. So, having said that, I would like to again commend the administration of the county executive, and I will be voting yes for the budget.
Further discussion? If not, we have a roll call, folks.
Mr. President, I rise to explain my vote on this budget. I find myself unable to support the budget. And let's be clear for the record. Merely because I and other members of the Democratic caucus do not support the budget is not analogous or the same as partisan politics. It is our responsibility and our duty to make the best judgment we possibly can when we're asked to do so on all matters that come before this body, but most importantly, the budget. Further, let me clarify for the record that at no time, contrary to the response to every proposal and every suggestion we have made publicly, at no time has the Democratic caucus proposed or advocated the increasing of property taxes or sales tax revenues to resolve the budget deficit that we're facing this year. What we have advocated for and continue to advocate for, including the amendment that was defeated on procedural grounds this evening, is that we slow the growth of spending. That it's a necessary but difficult situation for us to make those tough decisions. We attempted this evening through the amendment to afford some time to do that. And we need to look for cost efficiencies. We need to do this not because it is easy for us, but because it is our responsibility. This county is heading in the wrong direction. We have depleted assets. We are, as a county, using an approach to borrow